On this episode of The Gathering, we're tackling a topic that so many of you have asked about that is super important to all of our lives. I'm joined by Carl and Ade as we discuss relationships. So, one of the biggest questions that Christians, non-Christians have and that have been asked on our Instagram page is all about relationships. Specifically romantic relationships, but before we kind of get there, I think it's important to understand the importance of relationships full stop, right? And get the foundations right at first. So that's kind of where we're going to start. So thanks guys for joining me on this conversation. So big question to begin with. In your view, what is actually the purpose of relationships? And the reason I asked that question is because I've been having lots of conversations with lots of girls over the last few months, etc. And I found myself asking them that question as well. Is the purpose to make you feel good? Companionship, right? So somebody, this is romantic and platonic as well, like people that support you. Or is the purpose not bigger than that, but is there more to it than that in your view and what you know of God and the Bible?
Yeah. So I can jump in.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Speaking about relationships, I'm going to have to steal the words of a very wise man by the name of Justin Bieber. He was asked this same question, and what he said was that relationships model God. God is the Father, He's the Son, and He's the Holy Spirit. When we are in relationships as people, we're conversing with people, we're sharing with them, we're in life with them. And that signifies who God is. Yeah. So relationships are God.
Justin Bieber. That's deep. That's deep. Oh, that's wicked, man. I obviously never looked at it like that. I think that's quite powerful, man. I think I guess just to add to that, it was interesting when you were describing the question. You talked about is the purpose to make you feel good, or can it be more than that? And the first thing that came to mind was yes. Relationships can make you feel good, but they can definitely do much more than that, because the purpose of being around certain people, like you're saying, platonic and romantic as well, is not just to make you feel good, but people can help you learn. People can raise you up, lift you up. People can call you out when you're not necessarily doing well. And so, not necessarily to take faith out of it, but before we even bring in the faith aspect, people are there to kind of support each other, bring each other up when we're not necessarily feeling good, help each other learn, like I just mentioned. But then you kind of delve into it in terms of the Bible, and obviously we talk about with regards to kind of loving your neighbour as and treating people as they're supposed to be or you want to be treated, and the importance of that. And that takes it to a whole nother level, because then you just start talking about, especially for me when I got saved, the idea that the people around you need to be able to support what's going into your mind and what you're feeding yourself. You can't say that you want to be a scientist and no one around you is ever going to teach you about science or help you learn about science. And so, relationships kind of form your trajectory of your life as well, and they're really important to the type of person that you are and the type of person that you want to become. So, they're to make you feel good and so much more.
Definitely, and I think it's a two-way thing as well. Like you said, as much as that provides the benefit to you, that is the benefit you provide to your community as well and your relationships. And I just wanted to ask that question at the beginning because so much of what we see, or what I at least see on social media, is if you want something done properly, do it by yourself, trust no one, blah blah blah. And like even just in the smallness of what we're doing right now, I couldn't do this by myself and have do you know what I mean? And it's because, and it's not just me inviting you here, it's because of a relationship and all the other people that you do not see in this shot who have actually made this possible as well. So how has faith changed or shaped how you connect with others? And that's it's friends, family, romantic relationships, just at a high level, what changed?
That's a topic that, having recently been saved and baptized, I'm definitely grappling with at the moment. Around just the idea that obviously if you're coming from the world, or if you're of the world and you're doing things that are of the world, you don't necessarily know that they're bad, but if not all of your friends are kind of within the faith, they're going to continue doing certain things. And sometimes in the beginning, actually probably most of the time, you can't be in the same environments, take in the same information, speak to the same people and expect a different outcome from your life. But the minute you get saved, you are a new person. I don't know, Romans 12 verse 2 about transforming your mind and becoming a new person. That can't work anymore. And so it's not to say that you need to go and cut every single friend off that you had from before, but you need to be a lot more mindful of who you're spending your time with and how you're spending your time. And so for me, practically, it's been a little bit of a struggle, but I've realised that I need to build a friendship group, and I've started to build a friendship group of people who are of the faith. I still have my friends and my brothers who might not necessarily be of the faith, and I'm working and praying for them so that they can get saved as well. But at the end of the day, in order for me, especially at my infancy stage, to grow and to learn more, I'm going to have to kind of spend more time with people that can kind of, feed into me and can build my spirit up.
I've been someone who, some people say I overshare. I don't find it difficult to tell people what I'm going through, which probably isn't always a good thing. I think it's important to build some kind of rapport before you get into the details of your dreams and your aspirations and where you want to be 5 years from now. But I think it encourages people to open up. If you give them something, they're going to give you something in return. Yeah, I'm not saying it's transactional, but if you open up, then they feel like they can open up as well.
All you can do is pay it forward, basically.
Yeah, totally.
I think the other way it shaped my relationships is very slowly, learning to be vulnerable, because a lot of life we're told is about having it together and then demonstrating that in your friendships. But you actually most people grow close when they go through adversity, but if you're not sharing that with people, I'm naturally a private person, then you don't build your relationships. So it's just taught me to take the risk. And yes, people are people, and they hurt other people intentionally and unintentionally, but that shouldn't ever, like we've talked about in previous conversations, you should be almost like a child. So I know it says, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, but actually I guess it's a countercultural approach that vulnerability really is everything. But you put some skin in the game so that somebody else can. If you don't put any skin in the game, how do you get any return in terms of your relational growth?
Exactly. I was just going to ask, what you said about vulnerability I think was really, really powerful, and that's something that resonates with me in terms of kind of the journey that I'm going on right now, and the importance of sharing that with people. And I guess it's kind of like a comment / a question as well, if I may. I don't know what I'm trying to steal. But just like when you talked about vulnerability and sharing that journey with others, what I found is that as soon as because when you find God, or when God finds you and He opens up your heart to how much He actually loves you and what Jesus done for you, what you actually should want to do, or what I've actually found I want to do, is I want to share it with people. I want people to hear why, because my friends are not going to, the close ties and bonds that we built over the years, my friends are not going to all of a sudden turn around and be like, we don't want you anymore. They want to know why. Why are you making this change? What is it and so they've been so curious, and they want to ask questions, and all that's resulted in is me sharing more gospel with my friends and having those conversations, but not from a place of, I'm going to preach to you, from a place of, this is actually why I'm doing this, and I think there's a lot of power in people who are of the faith, and I can't remember the scripture, but just talking about being salt and being the light of the earth, and you have to go out to environments where you might not necessarily have the space to do that. Not everyone is going to be a master evangelist and standing outside the train station, but having like a conversation with someone, it could be your best friend, but they don't necessarily have as much knowledge as you. Being able to do that. So I guess I kind of wanted to ask, how has that played a part in your journeys? Because I know it's something that you do, and whenever people speak to you both, like, you're both open about kind of your faith.
For a long time when I was Christian, I didn't have my own relationship. I just knew the rules and I tried to follow them. Obviously I failed epically, but there was some stuff that I was doing and I was like, I just do it because it's in the Bible, and it's like, it's not the answer. So understanding that religion isn't something that you do, first of all, because I didn't know that. That's why I felt like it was okay to give that answer, because I thought it was something that you do is important. Knowing your why, and then also when things are difficult, you're like, I don't know, but this is my experience. And this is why I think vulnerability is critical in all kinds of relationships, because instead of giving the logical textbook answer, experience. That's what, like, that's why people give testimonies and stuff, because it's about, I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you that this is where I was, this is where I am, that could have never happened in a million years, and I don't know what else to tell you, So I think it's a mix of that. I don't know if that answers that question. That's and I think, as we've said, as we've been talking, it's kind of clear that you don't only have to be friends with people who love the same religion as you. I just wanted to make that super duper clear. So okay, we've kind of touched on it, but were there any other major habits that you've had to kick? So you kind of talked about just restructuring how you think of friends, like being intentional about friendships. Totally. Are there any? Mine would definitely be like letting go of rules, and also probably letting go of my ego a bit, because everything someone does, you sometimes think, oh, how can they do that? Or letting go of that. Was there any habit that you had to kick specifically?
Yeah, one specific one. I think I had to stop being a hedonist and stop living just for the fun of it.
Wow.
If you go back to maybe 10 years ago when I was in uni, people knew me as the guy who just wanted to have fun. Whatever I was doing, if it wasn't fun, then I didn't want to do it.
Wow.
Which means I spent a lot of money, going out with my friends almost every night in first and second year. But when it finally clicked, I realized actually there's more to life than having fun. What's the purpose for all this?
Yeah, and I think that links back to me asking about the purpose of relationships, because I think companionship and feeling good and giving that to each other in friendships and romantic relationships and family is critical, but it's like, what else are you doing? As they say, iron sharpens iron, like we're sharpening each other for a reason and for a purpose, and that purpose is about essentially advancing spread of what we think can change our lives, basically.
I've had to realize it's not always about me.
That's what I mean with the ego thing.
Yeah, it's true. I think there's probably loads of different habits that other people kind of listening and watching will probably be aware of as well. But two that were quite key for me was just the art of communication. So, and it links in with the vulnerability point that you were making. But just consciously saying to myself, Carl, pick up your phone and call your friend and say, hey, what's going on? Do you know what I mean? It's something that I'm still working on. I'm definitely not as good as I need to be, but that's important because what I've found and what I guess this journey has opened my eyes to, especially the entrepreneurship journey alongside faith, is just that the world can get very lonely. Everybody's trying to reach goals, everybody's trying to reach targets, trying to do things, and we're never actually in that place that we want to be in. The worst thing that you can do, and again it talks about this in scripture, is to isolate yourself and kind of fall into condemnation. And so if I know that's something that I'm struggling with, I actually feel a lot better when I talk to my friends and open up to them. And you don't know who's going through a similar thing as you.
It's actually good that you've touched on that, picking up a phone and saying to like, how are you, as men. Do you think that's different with women? So like I'm a girl's girl, like I have sisters, I went to girls' school, all my friends are basically girls, like my closest friends are girls, and it's very, DMC, deep meaningful conversations, how are you, it's like that's just like how it is. And what I've noticed through my male friends or males in my family is that only usually happens through a sister or a girlfriend or another female. And so my question would be that, is it important for men to have those relationships between themselves, and how do you go about that in a world that tells you to like man up, basically?
Men don't cry.
Exactly.
It definitely is important. I guess I've been blessed, and I say blessed, to have two sisters. Yeah, so growing up, it's never been alien for me to talk to them about what they're going through, or for them to talk to me. For us to discuss what we're going through. To some degree though, I guess there's still that part of me that says, I'm a man, I need to be strong about this, I need to deal with this by myself. But those things can slowly, and you'll know this as well, those things can eat you up. And if you share with people, if you engage with people, you're taking the focus off yourself, and you're actually affecting the lives of others. So not only are you doing something good for yourself, but you're also helping people out by just being there in the moment.
Bro, I could not agree more, man. Honestly, man. I think I've similar position to you. I've definitely been blessed to kind of grow up in a household of women, and I've got a lot of women in my family. And I remember when I was younger, when I was growing up, I used to always say, I'll never have girls who are friends because me and my friends would play football and we do this. And then now, if I look back at my friendship group, there's so many women in my friendship group, and it's so helpful because what happens is it builds your ability to empathize, it builds your self-awareness. It just and I don't even necessarily think it's because you're of a certain sex, I just think it's the way people are in general. But I know for me, the idea of vulnerability is something that's been big over the last couple of years. And I think there's a general movement for men as well to be more vulnerable. I went to a conference or like a gathering a couple of weeks ago that was about open space for black men to share about being vulnerable. And so I think there's a big movement at the moment, and I think it's really important because that level of self-awareness is actually what helps create more open people, but actually better leaders.
Yeah.
I find that leaders and people that I admire are people who are a lot more self-aware and open and empathetic. So I think it's a really important skill for a man growing up in today's world. And the more we can do it, the better. And I have faced instances where it's like, you know, you don't want to do it. From a person, I don't personally want to do it sometimes, and sometimes you meet other men who don't personally want to do it. I think it takes time.
Yeah.
I think it's something that it takes time, and you have to invest in that relationship, and also you have to be emotionally intelligent as well. And that's not something that happens overnight. But the more you can, like you were saying, have conversations with people, the easier it is to find pockets where it's like, okay, cool, I can bring it up here, but the next time we talk, it might not be the best conversation.
There's a time and a place.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's about just continuing to work out if you realise the importance of it.
That's it. Yeah. And I think it's a lot easier if it's in a Christian group, because already we're told that we need to have some kind of accountability. And talking about what you're going through is being accountable to someone else.
True.
Yeah.
It's not just vulnerability for vulnerability's sake. It's actually like accountable in every sense of the word. Not just when you've done bad things, but if I'm feeling terrible and a friend says go and get therapy, there's somebody that's going to be like, have you got it? Or, you know, even if it's something as major as that, but even if it's just like, I think exercise is going to help.
Exactly.
Are you doing it? Like something as simple as that. And I guess like looking to the Bible, the one that sticks out, which everyone always talks about, is David and Jonathan, like just having such an open relationship, and it says like their hearts were knitted together, and there's all sorts of interpretations around that, but I think it's just friendship in the purest form, and it spills out into everything, and that's how you kind of get your foundation. So what does it look like to like foster those relationships? Let's like move away maybe from family and friends, but what principles based on your relationships in general have you taken into your romantic relationships or your like pursuit of a partner, whichever one that is, but or even just not even actually your actual pursuit of the partner or in your relationship, but how you actually see a relationship, marriage, etc.
So I think it's important to find people that you just vibe with. Relationships already are a lot of hard work, so if it's effortless to connect with them, then the rest will hopefully just fall into place. There'll be times when you don't always agree on some issues, but if you have some kind of background, some kind of something that holds the both of you together, it doesn't necessarily have to be Christianity, because you may be talking about friends who aren't Christian. But if you both have something that's common with you, that bonds you, just like you said with David and Jonathan, their souls were knitted together. If you have that thing, then it's a lot easier to then be able to be open with each other, to talk about the kinds of days you're having, your aspirations, and then it also goes into romantic relationships.
But in my experience, especially with regards to kind of romantic relationships, again, it goes back to the idea of communication, but going deeper, authentic communication, talking genuinely about how you're feeling and I think growing up, that was something that I thought I was always really, really good at, and then you start to find that you're probably not as good as you think you are, and certain scenarios or experiences and relationships that you have teach you that you can always improve. And I liked that element. It doesn't always feel that nice to have someone tell you, hey, you probably don't do this as good as you think you do, but over time when you look back, that's actually really, really helpful. So the importance of that authentic communication, obviously all the stuff that you talked about, and it's important to have a commonality. Laugh isn't like banter for me. You can't have a good relationship without being able to banter with that lady that you like, and so I think that's really key. Common interest, also being prepared to compromise as well. And when I say compromise, there's obviously the traditional element of having to compromise, but also just the idea of introducing you to what they like. You know, my thing is football, my thing is motivation, my thing is entrepreneurship and business, and I might be inviting someone into my life who doesn't necessarily like those things, but they need to be prepared to learn a little bit more about that. Equally, I need to be prepared to learn a little bit more about what they like and how and what I always find is that whenever I take the step to do that, I actually start liking whatever they like. So
it's not that scary.
Exactly. So
exactly.
open-minded.
I think for me, one key thing that I've learned, like in my life, my short life, I'm not that old yet, is just the value of expectation, and it is in friendships as well, because you have to be intentional. We talked about that, but also in romantic relationships, because sometimes, and I don't want to make this too gendered or anything. That's not what we're focusing on. But I think, you know, as a woman, just say as a woman, like there's an expectation that you're supposed to attract, right? So you subconsciously or consciously make yourself someone who can attract based on whatever values. Who even really knows what those values are? And that could be physical. That is one in one sense, but even just in terms of what you're willing to just take, basically, is what I mean. And I think having a clear sense of self, and then having an expectation. As we've talked in previous conversations, like the law of attraction is in the Bible. Your expectations as a man think, so is he or so is she. It's like if you expect that this is the kind of person that I want, because this is what I'm wanting to do with my life, this is how I want to build, then you're going to filter out those people who are not for you, or who don't work for you. And I think it's not about like this person's evil, it's just that they're wrong for you. And we shouldn't be fearful to have expectations. And I think it's the same in like business as well. Like you can have like the highest aspirations, and people say, you know, aspire lower, because then you won't be disappointed. But then also, if you don't define what you want, then you're never going to get it. That's the truth. Like it's like a simple phrase like closed mouths don't get fed, and I think that is applicable to everything. If you have a clear view of what you want, you're probably more likely to get it, and you shouldn't apologize for, you know, some people, I've heard people tell friends like, oh, she's too picky or she's too this, and obviously there's a balance, but I think understanding this is who I am, this is what I want, and I think sometimes maybe men are better at that, but at least from my perspective, you know, you can actually say that's unacceptable, this is what I want. And it's not always about what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. Some of it's just like, I would like this, and it's fine to like an extra, you know, like it's fine. It's like having a car. Like you need a car, but you could want one that's just extra fancy. It's fine. Like it's literally just. I think it's that simple. It's not anything kind of crazy. And when I think about like the Bible and relationships in the Bible, it's not this dramatic thing. They always just talk. I remember there was one. I can't remember the name of the individuals where this happened, but basically they go to collect to the guy's original village or something to go and find a wife, and on the way they meet one, and basically the test, they didn't plan for this to be a test, but it was like if she met the guy who went to go and pick up the woman, and she saw that obviously he was on a trip, so she got him some water and she got the donkey some water, and because of that they were like, you're the wife. It's not because of what you looked like, it's because of your personality. And I think having that expectation, you want somebody who, like her, I guess, is hospitable, who's conscious, who's generous. Understanding that is a very specific situation, and I personally don't believe that the stuff in the Bible just happened and it's not relevant to my life, you know. So having that expectation, I think there's lots of other examples of that. People always talk about Ruth and Boaz all the time. I don't really like cliches, but they're there for a reason, you know. And Boaz says, I've heard about you because of how you treated your mother-in-law of your husband that died, and how you are as a person. I've heard about you, and I think it's important to have those values up front. Yeah,
totally. I saw what came to mind when you were talking was don't settle. Don't settle. But I think some people take that, they run with it and they go a bit too far. Do you know what I mean? They turn it from don't settle to just have some super high expectations.
And also the expectation is always about what though. Those people that run with it.
That's right.
It's always about certain things and not other things.
Totally. And kind of physical, materialistic or whatever. But I saw a meme on Instagram about, and I can't remember who it was, I think it was probably Miles Monroe, I'm always listening to Miles. But there was a triangle, and it said when you're trying to find a husband or a wife, the most important thing is for you to focus on God. Because if you imagine it to be a triangle, if the woman or the wife is on this side of the triangle, the man or the husband is on this side of the triangle, and they're both focused on God, who's at the top of the triangle, eventually you meet. And I just thought that was a really powerful statement, especially being that a lot of the conversation I'm having with people now around the idea that, you know, you need to have a woman of faith, or can you go and meet a woman who isn't of faith, and how is that going to work, etc., etc. But it's true to say that if your principles and your ideals are aligned with God, and that's kind of the foundation of your life, then you probably need to be focused on the same thing. Now, that's not to say that you can only meet someone who's in your church, in a church. The way that works is very different. But I thought that was a pretty cool meme.
That is an amazing concept.
Yeah,
amazing.
very, very cool.
Yeah. And just to further that, exactly what you said is in the Bible. A threefold cord isn't easily broken. And like you said as well, if you focus on God, there's going to be a lot of extras which your significant other brings into the equation, which you may not have expected. But that's only because, you know, they've grown up in a different family from you. They've been through different experiences. Their life up until now, let's say you're in your mid-20s, that's about 25 years of difference. It's like, it's important to remember that even though they have all these differences, there's all these other God-given qualities that make them right for you. So we shouldn't get bogged down on trying to find someone who's gonna, you know, who's gonna fit your square peg with a square hole. It's just it's not about that.
So we've touched on it a little bit. It's about what are you looking for is basically the question that we've all kind of danced around, like what are the qualities, you know? So I'm not going to ask you that because you're all like breathing heavily.
Whoa, you're impressive.
My question is going to be that question, what are you looking for? Because expectation defines reality or leads to reality. What are you looking for? It drives you, it pulls you, it pushes you. Is what kind of misconception or like untruth or lie do you think that, based on your experiences, your spheres of influence, your friends, your family, we have generally believed from media, from whatever, from society about relationships that is not true based on experiences?
I can't say that I've personally bought into this misconception, but I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And so the misconception is the idea of basically looking and being perfect. So, and what's coming to mind is that Instagram relationship. You know, every time you scroll through Insta these days, there's a picture of someone being proposed to online, and it, you know, or someone being bought their first car online, and just like perfect pictures and all of that type of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but subconsciously, well, what social media does subconsciously is make you buy into something, and it's just a window of someone's life. When their life is this big, the window is this small.
So even if that person's genuine in what they're posting, it's not about the person. It's how much you see and how much it defines you. Exactly,
and kind of what impact that has on you. And so I think just the idea that, you know, I want to meet someone who can help me get this type of lifestyle or be this type of relationship is such a powerful concept and can be so misleading because there's so much beauty in the unknown as well, and what God has planned for you and your partner, you have no clue. And so if you're trying to fit it to this mold that you've seen online, again, subconsciously or consciously, that can be really, really painful, and that can be to your detriment. So I think that's an ideal that a lot of people buy into about, and not even necessarily the person that they want to get, because you can be in a relationship and think the relationship needs to go in this direction because this is what you're seeing. And so that's why, again, I guess if we go to the importance of delving into scripture, looking to the leaders in your church or leaders in the community and how they've built their lives, your parents or role models that you have that might have built kind of positive relationships, and how you do that, I think that's a really powerful misconception that it will be dangerous if people buy into.
That's great. That's
very
great.
True. Very true. And I think, for the longest time, the world has told us that you have to find the most beautiful spouse in the world. And it's like, there's much more than that. 30 years down the line, that person is not going to be the most beautiful person. But I think it's important to just find someone that you can be at peace at, and someone you know has your back. Like, if worse comes to worse and someone accuses you of doing something, they can be there no matter what to say, actually, no. I'm standing behind this person, whether it's a husband or a wife, saying, I know them, and I know that this is not them. So important.
You know what you're talking about in terms of the scripture. You said Ruth and and the importance of treating people right and that your reputation becoming first. I just thought, that was really powerful. When you were talking, that's what came to mind.
Yeah. That's so important. Makes me think about Mary and Joseph as well. If he had actually divorced her after he found out that the kid wasn't his, like, what would have happened to us? Like, would Mary have made it to Bethlehem?
Yeah. And you know, he did actually. It says that he had the plan to divorce her in quiet, and God was like, please, literally, don't. And it's like, so that's the thing that and this is what I love about the Bible, we think it's so far removed, but he was feeling that shame, like, I'm gonna not say an expletive here, but you know, guys being like, she's gonna make me look bad, she's gonna make me look like an idiot, and that's why Othello, the whole story exists. That is a thing that people talk about so much. What would you do if? And it's like that. To the outside, people were probably thinking, ugh, look what happened there, and, you know, because they weren't even married. And to you know, that means all sorts of things in their society. So it's like that has been going on for ages. What is the purpose of the relationship? Is it to look good? There was a bigger purpose, and it was brought out. And he wasn't an angel, you know. He thought, he was like, no, I'm gotta go, like, on my way. And actually, it's an intervention, like, with God. And that's like what you guys are saying, like, that is the driving force, the key factor.
So powerful, man. So
powerful. Yeah, thank you guys so much for like helping me like explore and tackle a bit of a subject that can be kind of prickly sometimes. And I'm sure that there'll continue to be many questions about this, but thank you for joining me to at least start the conversation.
Thank you for having us, man. It's been awesome.